welcome back to another episode of the 5-Star Talk podcast with JB and Millie.
Hi guys.
So we have an extremely special guest this episode. We are delighted to announce that we are joined by AfroCrossing.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
No problem whatsoever. Thank you so much for coming on, and honestly, can we please just say now a huge thank you to you because I guess you can describe this in greater detail, but you have done so much for the community lately. It's just such an inspiring story. So I guess if you'd like to describe to everyone exactly what you're doing on the internet right now.
Okay, so yeah, I came up with this event called AfroCrossing, and basically what it is a website or a Twitter page that hosts various events in the Animal Crossing community, specifically for like Black bloggers and Black gamers. And the idea of it is to give Black Animal Crossing fans a safe space. The first event was basically a week-long event where I had prompts for specific days, and you like would print screen stuff on your island, would make testimonials and like upload everything to Twitter, and I basically just share it, and it would make the whole community grow, and a lot of people would be happy and excited. So yeah, that was the first event, and I'm also working on a couple of other events. One is a shout out event for Valentine's Day, just basically shouting out to people who you love and are inspired by in the Animal Crossing community. And another one is kind of like a week event with has loose prompts and everything, but it's again the idea is to bring the whole community together. So yeah, that's basically what it is. Just a blog that hosts events that kind of makes Black fans feel like even if they're dealing with a whole bunch of racism in the Animal Crossing community and we don't think we have a voice or a safe space, Animal Crossing or AfroCrossing is supposed to be that safe space. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that is absolutely incredible, and oh my gosh, like that first event is how we got familiar with your Twitter account, your website, because the outpour of support was just phenomenal. Like seeing everyone come together within that community, it seemed like for the first time really there was an organization that really made the Black Animal Crossing community thrive, because before then there was some issues with the game, from Hairstyles not being too inclusive to all of that, to the level of needing a petition to get them added in. So to have a website dedicated to, I guess, thriving upon acceptance is just absolutely inspiring, especially because before that it seemed like even the, I guess, Animal Crossing community in terms of creators or anything like that wasn't too diverse in that regard. So how have you found hosting these events so far in terms of problems or anything like that, or has it all just been positive?
Well, it's been very positive. Like I've had some negative comments from here to there, people who are upset that I'm hosting it and like basically make false accusations I'm trying to gatekeep or whatever and stuff like that. But overall, the support has been really positive. I've been met with nothing but like happy people who are excited to partake and even share the event. So I'd say overall, even though I've had some negative interactions, everything else has been very positive.
I mean, it is amazing what you're doing, so it's good to hear that overall the reaction's been really positive. And I mean, just looking at the game itself, you said this is centered around the Animal Crossing community. We've spoken to a lot of people who say that the Animal Crossing game itself is so much more inclusive. And I know JB especially feels that this is a really relevant issue in that lots of games don't let you, for example, alter skin colour, all that sort of thing. Do you find that Animal Crossing has been a lot more inclusive than lots of other games, and that's maybe why it's best to kind of do this within this community?
Yeah, so like I think that the altering of skin and now hair or hairstyles is what makes like the game accepting and a lot more diversified, I guess is a word to use. But I think the thing that makes it a lot more inviting to a lot of Black people and people of color is it's not just like a character that you're going to necessarily use like for, I guess, a quest or like a fighting game. The character is basically you, and it's a lot of people say that Animal Crossing is escapism, and kind of taking a step back from like reality, especially all that we're going throughout the world. So I think what makes Animal Crossing super inclusive is that it's like your avatar and your mini me is actually you. Like a lot of people personify their little avatars and everything. So when you add like the aspect of being able to change skin color or change eye color or now get natural hairstyles, a lot of people feel that like it's a lot more. I guess it's more than a game. Like it's more than a game because you can see someone who looks like you. You can see someone who looks like you living this life that you would like to be living, or this life that even for a few minutes or hours you can escape to. So yeah, I definitely think that the inclusion of all these different skin tones, hairstyles, and everything is what draws people in, especially during a time like this, because I don't want to say it becomes people's reality for a while, but it definitely becomes something, I guess, that helps people escape from reality, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%. And I think now more than ever that's been so prominent. And I do feel that the game in itself, and just games in general, I think nowadays have done great strives to making sure that you can literally become you know yourself in the game. Like I remember being a younger person of color that would just grow up on Pokemon, and you couldn't really change your skin tone. You were just like stuck as that stock white character, and I don't know, I got used to that to some stage, but then when they finally changed it, I forgot which one that they managed to make that an option. It might have been X and Y or one of the ones before that, but it actually meant so much that you could do that, and that's just been translated so far into it, to the point where it does stand out when you can't do that. Like one of my most recent memories from that was falling in love with Animal Crossing, falling in love with the fact that I could make my character look like me, and then going back to play Mario Kart, which I guess was ported over from the Wii U, and you can't change the skin color of the villager in Animal Crossing and in Mario Kart, and I was like, what? Really? Oh gosh. We really are looking backwards.
Yeah, and if you think about it, a lot of games that we're used to and that a lot of us grew up on, at least for me, like Mario and Zelda, like even like horror video games like Resident Evil, the default for those games is always white or light skin. So it's like, in a way, that's always kind of been the precedent for some of the most well-known games, depending on like what genre you're into. So it's like, again, like you mentioned, Mario is probably one of the biggest games out there, like the whole franchise. But the characters, like you have Mario, Peach, all of Mario's brothers, Daisy, everyone is, except like if you're talking about Yoshi or someone, everyone is white. So like those are the people that we grew up with and we had to identify with. Like Peach was always my favorite character, but I can only identify with her on like our favorite color was pink, and that's pretty much what drew me to her. But other than that, like she didn't represent me in any way. So like when you look at things like Animal Crossing, where you can like customize characters, and Animal Crossing is such a big franchise now, that's kind of lifting up the status quo, because now we're having a famous game or a well-known game where now the status quo or the precedent isn't necessarily light skin. So yeah, also I didn't mean to cut you off if I did.
Oh no, not at all. I was kind of just hoping to get your take on the situation, because it's that inclusivity, that welcoming within the Animal Crossing community, which is why I think, Afro Crossing in itself has really, just struck a chord with the community in such a positive way. Now, from the look of some of these upcoming events, which we can discuss a bit later on, it also delves into Stardew Valley, which I think is another perfect example of that inclusivity. I think that's just amazing that more and more of these games have become like that.
I mean, I personally find Stardew Valley impressive in that, when you're setting it up, I think there's something along the lines of 26 different colours that you can choose from in terms of skin. And again, for hair, there is so much variety that again allows you to kind of personally identify with who you feel represents you best.
And so like for me personally, I don't play Stardew Valley, but my sister plays Stardew Valley, and I've been like looking over her shoulder, and sometimes I'll take her Switch from her and like move the little person around. But like I was so shocked when I realized like you can customize the skin tone and everything. Like I thought it was just a pixelated character with like a set skin tone and everything, but I'm like, wow, I didn't know that even here, even in like a pixelated game, that you can customize yourself to be who you want to be. And now I definitely see like while you have Animal Crossing fans that like Stardew Valley and vice versa. So yeah, that was really interesting to see.
I agree, and I think it's so important, and I think that games are coming across now that they are beginning to offer a lot more variety in terms of that sort of thing, and I think it's important because I remember once playing a game with JB and his brother, and JB's brother had by default just there was a white skin tone, and JB kind of corrected him, was like, you do realise you can do that? And given the lack of options there have been for characters in the past, it was just his default that he didn't even expect to be able to alter it. And JB had just been like, look, there's this option as well. And it had just become kind of a thing for him where he just had to accept that it wasn't an option. So to see this progression's really, really positive.
Yeah.
It's just incredible. And I guess that brings us on to our kind of next question to you, in that beyond Afro Crossing, like, what has your experience been with games in general that has made you, I guess, such a positive force in the community in terms of making things so much more accepting? Like, what would you say has defined that characteristic within you?
Well, when it comes to games, I've been playing games since I was a little girl, but I wasn't really involved in any communities like that until when I was little. I was in the Resident Evil community, but that is years ago. But I wasn't like really deeply involved into communities until I got into Animal Crossing. I had no idea there was such a big fandom on Twitter for Animal Crossing. Like, it shocked me just to see like the sheer dedication people put forward and everything. I'm like, wow, there are whole Twitter blogs dedicated to Animal Crossing. And recently I figured out that Animal Crossing had been, because just like short story, I bought it at the beginning of the pandemic. My Nintendo Switch was a graduation gift to myself, but I had heard randomly that there was a game called Animal Crossing, and I had no idea what it was. And when I played it, I could automatically understand why people enjoyed it. And on top of that, I hadn't realized that Animal Crossing had existed for years before this, so it was really interesting to just actually delve into a community to see like all this connection and all this enthusiasm for a game. So like I'd say, aside from like the racism that I had seen personally and that I'd seen a lot of other Black people fall victim to, seeing the sense of community and like how happy and how creative people were with their islands and their characters and everything, that pretty much kind of made me like think, well, if I had an event, it would be really interesting to see like the creators come out, because like these people just aren't gamers. They're also like artists and creators and everything, even if they don't like draw with paper or digitally or anything. Like the effort you put into your island and the game itself, whether or not you want to admit it, that makes you an artist. So I'd say like what, again, aside from the racism, what really made me want to kind of do this event was just all of the creativity that I didn't want to see go to waste, or I didn't want to see people leave because of everything that was happening. It's like you had all this talent that you just don't want to see go away just because like you deal with racism or stuff like that. So yeah, basically in summary, all of that is kind of what in a way inspired me to do the event, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that is interesting, kind of making it seem like such a wonderful event, and it is brilliant. And I guess because you said that you played the game very early on, I think that's very much the same as us. But what was your opinion on, I guess, the lack of inclusive hairstyles, and I guess your opinion on their eventual inclusion as well?
So when it came to lack of hairstyles, I'm not going to lie, I was pretty upset because the hairstyle my avatar had originally wasn't the hairstyle I have now. And I guess what kind of got me upset is I'm like, okay, well, they have dark skin color, so like should be happy to an extent, but then it kind of made me realize just how much our hair color, not our hair color, our hairstyles, our hair texture wasn't seen as default. So like it's kind of upsetting having to like go into games and everything and see that people don't like really put in, designers don't really put in the effort to making Black people feel 100% inclusive, just like they make everyone else feel inclusive, I guess. Like, it was kind of upsetting. I'm like, well, if you have the skin tone, how come you couldn't like go like, I guess, the extra mile to make sure that you included Black people a little bit more, because most of those hairstyles that they had, like most of the players didn't have anything remotely close. So I saw the petition originally to get the hairstyles included, and I'm like, wow, like I shared it obviously not on AfroCrossing because I just made that blog a while ago, but like on my old Twitter blog I shared it. I'm like, and I hope that this actually works. But I certainly saw people being mad for no reason at the mere thought that Black people wanted inclusion. So that shocked me. Like, just the mere notion of Black people just wanting a little bit more inclusion got people upset. So I shared the petition, just like a retweet, and I signed it. But then I didn't actually think anything would happen because I didn't know who was like putting the hair, or who was like all the people behind like petitioning it and everything. I knew it was one person, and I feel bad because I forgot her name, but all I know, like seeing everything we have now, I know that she's been working so hard, because when we all saw the update and we all saw that we can finally like have characters that look like us just a bit more, I'm like, wow, this is amazing. It made me think that even among all the anti-Blackness, not just the creator of the petition was facing, but all the Black players speaking out about it, it made me think that even among that, we still, like, I don't want to say won at the end, but it wasn't effortless, because we got what we had petitioned for, and I feel like we got what we deserved. But see, everything that followed after was just super, super upsetting.
Yeah, like, I don't really understand how anyone could dislike that idea or even be against it, because it's not like there's like a whole massive subgroup of the community going, we had to put up with years and years of not having our cells included, so we just want these textured hairstyles and you can get rid of all the other ones. It was literally just an outcry of equal support and equal representation, and I don't know, it's just very difficult to stomach that there's people that can genuinely think about that idea and just like not go along with it, or even feeling the need to vocally speak against it. But the thing that I'm really curious about is, I am really not sure how, the pandemic and isolation and quarantine has affected Nintendo's development team. And so in terms of developing these hairstyles, if it was the plan all along to make these, code these, and then release them at a later date for some reason, or if they'd actually gone out their way to make it in light of the petition. And I don't know which one that was, but it's very curious to think about.
Yeah, it is, because I feel that if they had the idea beforehand, and that's another issue I have when you have black features, or just not just Black features, but things specific to all cultures of color, or specific Black cultures. I don't think they should be special updates, or I don't think that they should be I don't think they should be anything you have to wait for, or anything that you have to level up to get, or anything like that. I always think that they should be default. So I feel that if they were meant to have that there all along, then why didn't they have it? So that's why part of me likes to think that they did it because of the petition, because it wouldn't make me feel 100% better, but it would make me feel better in a sense that they're not using like Black hair or Black features like as a gotcha, or like something to be anticipated when it should have been there in the first place. They're doing it because they were asked, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think it makes so much more sense if it was from the petition. Otherwise, it's kind of the vibe that everyone else could enjoy the game and have full enjoyment of it if, you know, you had that kind of hairstyle, if you suited that kind of colour, if that was kind of your representation. But if that wasn't your representation, you had to wait a further 7 or 8 months before this game was for you. And it feels like a kind of strange isolation if they were delaying it deliberately. So I do think that it did come off the back of that petition, and in a way that's refreshing, because it goes to show that, you know, Nintendo or Animal Crossing do listen to what people want, what people have to say, and for all maybe it's something they should have considered earlier, it's good that they were listening to people's voice and heard what they needed, because as well, it kind of, there's been a lot of Animal Crossing games, but given that they've kind of come to this realization that that's something they should have included, it's something that they're probably going to take forward to every one of their Animal Crossing games now. So say if there's another Animal Crossing game maybe in 2 or 3 years time, hopefully when, you know, people start to create their characters for that game, those hairstyles are going to be available kind of immediately, and they'll be able to see their character and their representation from day one instead of having to wait.
Yeah, like it'll show them that, you know, inclusivity isn't just DLC that they can slap on and expect to be praised for it. It should just be, you know, here's the game, here's how everyone can enjoy it. And if they do take that philosophy going forward, that again is just a really good step, and I hope to see that implemented.
Yeah. And like, that's another thing I like, because like I realized earlier I mentioned Zelda and it not having black characters that you can customize versus Animal Crossing. And I guess just this is a side note, another thing I like about the customization, however you say that word, of the characters in Animal Crossing is that I feel that you have like black gamers can put a little bit of themselves into the characters in ways where I feel they like properly represent us. Like we had the petition for the natural hair, and that was good. And you have people who can we can choose our skin tone, but on top of that, like I don't feel like we're represented in like harmful or terrible ways, because then you have black people who will make our own codes for like specific clothes or something like that, or like make cute outfits and everything. And like I think that it's very rare in media to have black people of a whole, like various black people represented in ways that are away from like stereotypes. Like you have black people in charge of our own avatars, and we can be represented in like very cute, happy, and like non-aggressive ways. And the only reason I bring up Zelda is because in Breath of the Wild they have the Gerudos, and like while people consider the Gerudos representation, which I consider them representation to an extent, they're still represented in a very harmful way, and they're like built off of stereotypes on black women. So like you have like, I feel that it's like a double-edged sword, because you have black people, specifically black women, but like it's still harmful representation. Whereas in like Animal Crossing, you have black people pretty much in charge of our own customization and in charge of our own like little communities and sectors in Animal Crossing, where we can avoid being portrayed in harmful ways. Like, yeah, there's a different hairstyles and like skin tones, but like everyone in Animal Crossing is like portrayed in like a very happy, like when you see an avatar, you're gonna be like, oh, that's cute. Nothing scary about that. And like everyone gets that type of portrayal. It's not something that's just reserved for non-black avatars, it's everyone. So yeah.
And I think you've raised some really interesting points as well, and it certainly got me kind of thinking about other things that we've seen in Animal Crossing in the community. And you were saying about how, you know, everybody with an island is an artist, and that was something that's really resonated, because we've seen some islands where people have really been able to express themselves and kind of put things that matter to them forward, and via the dream address and things, they've been able to get their views shown. And we found this absolutely beautiful Black Lives Matter movement island, and there were signposts and things on the island, and it was just such a beautiful sign of acknowledgement and respect and, you know, just acceptance. It was just stunning to see. And I do think that, you know, again, we're talking about Animal Crossing here, but just how much this game has allowed everybody to just kind of embrace not only who they are, but kind of expressing that as well. And it's just so nice to see.
Yeah. Also, I just want to make a quick apology. If you hear weird noises in the background, it's my dog. She just randomly got excited and started like scratching the wooden floor and throwing her toys around and sneezing. So if you hear something like that, that's her.
Oh no, dogs make the cutest co-stars. I know that ours are always trying to jump in on the video. So.
Yeah, always.
But other than that, I definitely agree with what you said, and it kind of I feel brings back the idea that you can kind of create your own reality in Animal Crossing, because you said like, you know, you're just talking about Animal Crossing, and that's true, but like even then, like that whole Black Lives Matter island is someone creating a reality they want to see. Maybe they're not seeing it in real life, so they kind of it's another form of escapism. They find their happiness and their perceived reality in Animal Crossing, and that makes them feel better.
I agree, and just I think something that is again another addition to the game, but I feel like the dream address randomizer is almost a way of kind of them bringing some awareness to them, to that kind of movement and that kind of level of acceptance, because, you know, it could be that because they've allowed that island to be found by the dream address randomizer, that anybody could kind of stumble upon that island, and it just kind of makes people think, and again just kind of raises that awareness of some acceptance. And I just think that creator just, I feel like it was them expressing themselves, but I feel like there is another entire level to it, and that other people are going to be able to see that, and hopefully, you know, it'll make them think a little bit and have a really kind of positive impact.
Definitely.
And I think that is also fantastic, and I've never thought about that, because the Dream Address Randomizer really does open the doors for that, I guess, awareness. If someone's visiting an island and there is the Black Lives Matter custom design, they could probably do some more research into that and realize it, because the fact is that some places or some locations, some countries just, I don't know, some places are just very racially unaware. Like, I know personally I grew up in a very racially unaware situation where for the first 16, 17 years of my entire life, I was the only person of colour in, like, my entire school. Like, it was so weird to the point where the first time I heard the phrase person of colour was when I first went to university, and I was like, oh, okay, because beforehand I just kind of adopted the language of kind of everywhere else. I didn't know what was politically correct, what was politically incorrect. And when we first learnt about these kind of new hairstyles, that there was a real need for it, was doing island tours, because we've done about 100 of them at this point, and one of our questions was always, what would you like to see in a future update? And the amount of times we heard the outcry for these inclusive hairstyles was just phenomenal, and so it's great that they finally come to fruition in such a way. And I do think that because people have used Animal Crossing as a safe space, it really has given the scope for them to make their island, I guess, their ideal version of the world, which again, I think through the Dream Address, hopefully that does bring awareness. And there's been controversies with the Dream Address about people reporting star fragments. There's been so many shenanigans with that, to the point where since there's been no one reporting these islands just to be horrible, I think that's a good sign of things moving forward as well.
Yeah.
So in terms of the hairstyles, what was your opinion on the kind of more controversial aspects of that, you know, in terms of how certain members of the community reacted to it?
Well, there was so much that went on then, and I guess that also ties into why I created AfroCrossing. So I have to admit, I was very taken aback by some of the community reactions. On one hand, you had people who had been saying for months that it wasn't important, and that not just that, but like going after and harassing Black people for speaking out. But on the other end, you have like those very people encouraging like non-Black people to like use those hairstyles. And I guess it's like I don't want to like erupt anything or like say something that like is upsetting or like sends bad stuff to you all or anything like that. But I guess what I want to say is it was just very shocking to see how people could take something that belonged to black people or that black people worked so hard for and not even consider like the effect it had on us and not even be the ones to speak out or to petition or to actually go through not just like gaming but real life when your own hair is discriminated against. Because a phrase I saw going around a whole bunch was, why are you guys getting mad? It's just hair. And like, to a lot of people, they don't really understand that no, it's not just hair. Because like, if you've been in situations where you've been discriminated against for your hair, or you've had like people touch your hair like you're an animal, or you know people, or you know stories of women who, not just women, like, but any black person who can't even go to school or get a job because of their hair. Or if you yourself have had people like in public settings like make derogatory comments towards your hair and like you can't necessarily say anything, then like it's not more of hair to it's not just hair to you, like, because you go through your whole life being told that your hair is ugly and everything. Because like at least for me, I'm 24 now. I didn't have my hair natural like how it is or how you see in the game, because I guess obviously you can't see my hair right now, but my hair is like twisted up, and I usually twist it up and like clip it back, or I untwist it and wear it like really curly. But I wasn't able to have the confidence in my hair like that until I was 19. And before that, my hair had been chemically straightened, and that wasn't healthy for my hair or for my head. And because of that, there's still some places where my hair doesn't grow where it's supposed to, or there's still some places on my head where, because I had chemicals in my hair, it burned, or my head is softer or bruised. And the whole thing is like, people will say it's just hair, but you like don't understand the history behind it. Because like, for me at least, for my family, the women in our family and everything like that, they were taught to hate their hair. And a whole bunch of black people go through that, and for years will do terrible things to their hair, will like chemically straighten their hair to the point where you're so far divested from your culture because you are forced to fit into whiteness and everything like that. Like my grandmother, she was behind us getting our hair straightened and everything when we were children, but I never ever once held it against her, because I knew that she herself grew up in a time period where if her hair was natural, it was in its natural state, she couldn't get a job or anything. She couldn't be taken seriously. So I never once held it against her or any like black mother or black grandmother who felt the need to straighten their child's hair or to cut their child's hair off. But it's taken us all time to like gain the courage to wear it out, and I've been doing it for years now, and I finally find that confidence to bring it back to Animal Crossing. It's not easy wearing it out like this, because I have faced discrimination for it. I have had people touch my hair like I'm a dog, or stick things in my hair when I'm not looking, like people in like the college setting. So like when you go to Animal Crossing and finally see yourself represented, but seeing people who don't really understand that struggle, treating it like it's just a game, or it's like just an addition to a game, it hurts when they say it's just hair, because no matter how many times you explain it, they're not really going to understand what you go through. And the thing is, like, they're not trying to understand. But to see people rally and support someone who's like saying the most awful things, who's wearing hair just for the sole purpose of spiting black people, it's painful. And that reaction really, really shocked me, because I'm like, we're in 2020. I thought that we were above this type of petty racism and everything. So like the overall, just the racism shocked me, and that's why I made the event. Because after that whole fallout, I saw so many black people saying stuff like, well, I don't even want to play Animal Crossing anymore, or I figured out this community isn't safe, or I don't even want to turn on my Switch anymore. I'm all like, well, that didn't sit right with me, because so many of us had found like happiness in Animal Crossing, and I didn't think it was fair that so many of us didn't feel safe or made the event to reinforce like, no, we definitely have a place for us, and we definitely have people who understand what we're going through, and it's not just a hairstyle, and I wanted everyone who got attacked for saying it's not just a hairstyle to understand, like, no, you're not by yourself. You're not alone, and people understand what you're going through.
Yeah, and I don't know, I guess a part of me likes to hope in the back of my mind that a lot of these people that were claiming that it's just a hairstyle were just speaking out of a place of ignorance and not hatred. Because I guess it's very easy for people that haven't grown up with those type of issues to brush things off very easily. Like, even if they're trying to be complimentary, like, I think a lot of things that I guess white people will say to someone of colour is, oh, I wish I had your skin tone, you know, you have no idea how much money I'd pay to go on the sunbed to look like you. And, you know, I guess that's how they can perceive things as a compliment, you know, that's nothing great to be offended on. But it's very easy to imagine how someone could say that to someone without thinking, you know, well, yeah, you know, it probably looks nice to some people, but you've never had to deal with those comments at school or the kind of stereotypes that go with it. Like, it's very easy to, I guess, adopt something when you haven't had to deal with the weight of it. And I don't know. And also, I think with a lot of these, like, controversies, if someone goes out of a place of ignorance and they say post a photo of themselves with these hairstyles and they get criticized for it, I'd like to say that a lot of people that were, I guess, in defense of them or that were talking down to people of color about their offense at it were probably just naturally racist people anyway that were drawn to these events like a wildfire. Like, okay, here's a controversy, here's a way that I can, I guess, stir things up a bit, and perhaps that's another angle of things. But I don't know. I think ignorance is one thing and racism's another thing, and it's just disheartening to see how, I guess, lightly people can talk about issues. But at the same time, I think it's one of those things, unfortunately, where you'll never know the full weight of a situation until you've actually lived it yourself, and it's very difficult to really, you can tell people the struggles, but unless they're there, I don't know. It's just, it's a tricky one. It's a tricky one.
Yeah, because, like, on one hand, so one of the biggest things for me is that I truly believe that if you're, like, uneducated on the situation and you're saying stuff purely out of ignorance and just, like, not knowing, then I don't have any issue explaining it to you from my perspective, like, why it hurts me, and that's just for me personally. And I think that, yeah, if you say something, or if you like just a hair thing, like, if people I saw a lot of people asking, well, why does it matter? It's just hair. Like, for some of those people, they were doing it completely out of not knowing and miseducation, and, like, I had no idea, like, explaining to them just why, like, it was harmful. But I think the main issue comes when even when people take the time to explain it to you, you're still very ignorant and hateful, and at that point it's just like you're just being racist. And of course that just works for me. Like, since I like talking a lot and I like writing a lot, I don't mind, like, always, like, explaining things to people, but I can totally understand why other people don't. But, like, I feel that like if there's a point where someone's willing to sit down and listen, then I feel like it's a win if I'm able to, like, I guess, turn them or make them see my way. But it's a whole different situation if they choose not to listen. So yeah.
Yeah, I'd even argue that they might have, I guess, more of an angle to work with in an ideal world where these hairstyles were a default with the game, because at that point it's just, okay, I've chosen this as a default, you know, whatever. But the fact that it's literally an additional type of inclusivity that had to be campaigned for months, that a petition had to be made for it, it then becomes something quite different where, you know, fair enough, if you like the look of it, you want to use it, fine, but you also need to understand that it isn't just something that's magically appeared in the game. It's something that's literally had to take people speaking out against it for it to happen. And I think then it becomes a situation of, if someone doesn't understand that and they kind of still choose to actively not take steps to improve what they're doing, or not take steps to, I guess, hear the other side of things, then it just that's them taking things too far and just going out of their way to be offensive. And again, that's just an amazing testament to Afro Crossing in itself, because I do think it's made a lot of people feel like there's a safe place again in Animal Crossing. There's a community that they can go to kind of feel included. And I guess to that, is there any like goals that you have in the future? Because there's upcoming events, of course, but is there like an ideal future that you're working towards in terms of Afro Crossing in itself?
Oh yeah, a couple of things. So the first thing is I just kind of want to stay remaining like the blog itself. I want to keep it up so it can be like a safe space for Black bloggers and everything like that. And for preferably, and I'm not sure how this will go, not just Animal Crossing gamers, but like all Black gamers who kind of feel like they're not welcome in their communities. But for now, and from the future I see, specifically like just keeping on, like keep hosting events, still hosting events that always keep the Black Animal Crossing community excited, and let people know that the Black Animal Crossing community is there to help Black people and to make Black gamers feel like they have a place. So basically, I always want to be a safe space. I guess other events I have too, or other ideas, I don't know how I would do this either, but like making it like a magazine or something like that, like what's happening in the Black Animal Crossing community. At first, I thought that was a silly idea. But the thing about it is, one, the Animal Crossing community is so much bigger than I thought it was. Even the Black Animal Crossing community, like every day, I see like Black Animal Crossing fans that are like, "OMG, I had no idea this account existed." So what that tells me is there's so much more Black Animal Crossing gamers out there. Like my blog hasn't even like begun to scratch the surface of the Black Animal Crossing community. So that said, I would like to like kind of make like a magazine or something that just kind of details events and stuff that's happening in the community. And because the events themselves aren't just exclusive to gamers, but they also welcome artists too. So like even with that, like with artists, that can also help ways to like make like, I guess, I don't want to say spread the word, but like to give us more to work with in a way. To have like gamers, the Animal Crossing gamers who I already like said are artists. Like even to have like people who do digital art or traditional art and like throwing their ideas there and partaking in the events, I think it could like be like really big, like a magazine would be really interesting. And I also want to have mods in the future because of my own anxiety and stuff like that, and like how I've seen like whole events like crash down because like mods get in fight. I've actually been afraid of doing that recently. Especially because, like, I guess things that I've been seeing recently have been, like, less than desirable within the... Like, no matter how you try to cultivate a safe space, there's always going to be things that happen. There's always going to be, like, bad eggs or, like, people who don't get along and everything. And I'm, like, my biggest fear is, like, well, what if I bring mods in and they don't like each other or my event crashes? And so, like... I guess one of the biggest things I'm facing is I want to do all of these things, but I definitely can't do it alone. So I guess I'm in the process of looking for mods because it would be cool to have a magazine, but like, will also be cool to have like a YouTube channel where people discuss like Animal Crossing topics or even Black gaming topics. But like, all that is all fun and dandy and stuff like that and good and like in theory. But like, as I'm just doing these solo events, I am trying to be more realistic with myself because like if I want to like make this bigger, I can't do it alone. And even with my own anxiety and mental my mental capacity, mental health, it's like I get stressed and overworked and sensory overload like really easily. So sometimes like I even had to take a breather from it. Not that I dislike it at all, but like even with everything going on around, like it can be a lot. So definitely I do want to like expand Afro Crossing because like I have so many good ideas and visions for it. Even like a gift exchange and everything like that. But it's like I have to like I guess find a way to get more people to help if that makes sense.
I mean, all those things that you've been discussing sound certainly very exciting. And I mean, in terms of a magazine, it's definitely a broad enough topic with enough kind of substance behind it to warrant doing something like that. And in terms of getting mods, I think, given what it is that, Afro Crossing stands for, I think the way that those problems within the mods themselves would be limited is just because this is such a positive cause, it's such a positive project that you're working on and something of such importance that I think it's good people that naturally gravitate towards it, and that I think those issues would be limited just on the very foundations of what Afro Crossing is.
Exactly. And I guess that's just what I have to keep on remembering. Like, at the core, this is just supposed to be a fun event for everyone. And I think that there's not necessarily room for there to be drama or anything like that, or for people to disagree. So maybe with that thought in mind, it would be much easier to find help for the event. So yeah, thank you for helping me look at it through that perspective.
Yeah, and honestly, any way that we can help, we would love to be involved with that. Like, I don't know, I feel that Afro Crossing is such a positive, I guess, movement, a positive webpage, to the point where I honestly think that there'd be so much support behind that from the community. Oh my gosh, like it'd be amazing. Like we know so many talented artists that we could get in touch with. There could be an Afro Crossing logo. I'd even love to see it on merch, just for people to show how like proud they are of how great this thing is, because it is amazing. And like you say, you've got some amazing ideas coming up in terms of the Valentine's event, which is just, I don't know, I just think that that's an amazing thing to be involved in. And if you wanted to do a YouTube channel, there's certainly a lot of avenues that you could take in that respect. Is that something that you've given some serious thought to? Like, would you have any concepts for videos or any projects?
Well, see, and that is a funny thing, and that like, so I'm definitely no stranger to YouTube, having YouTube channels. I know that originally you had asked me if I had any related to this, and I had said no because I don't really do any YouTubes like related to to Afro Crossing or Animal Crossing in general. I do have a YouTube channel. I have one where I do discuss like things like social justice and fandom, or like anime reviews and stuff like that. And it has absolutely nothing to do with Animal Crossing, but for like ideas and everything, I guess I think that one thing that I would do, and something that like I even do for like my own personal stuff, is basically ask the community like, well, what do you want to hear about and everything. Like, of course, I come up with my own prompts, or like when I get around to getting those mods, brainstorm with prompts with the mods and everything. But at the end of the day, we'll also be like asking the community, what would you like to see? What would you like to see from us? And like we just compile a list and maybe do like 1 or 2 videos per month. So far for if I was to say an event off of the top of my head, it would definitely be, or a video off of the top of my head, it would definitely be the attitude of Black fans and the Animal Crossing community, and if Afro Crossing at all has made them feel any differently about the racism many of them may have faced. But those are just like a few ideas.
I mean, I think it would be a very powerful thing for, there to be a YouTube link to Afro Crossing personally, because, and another reason is just that we're really grateful that you were here speaking today, especially because hearing you, like, how you've explained the importance of those hairstyles, like, I found myself very moved by some of the things that you've had to say, and I do think that it's so important that, other people get to hear that too. So even just kind of looking at that aspect of Animal Crossing and explaining it from your perspective, just getting people to hear that in itself, I think would be a very positive thing to happen.
Yeah, and I do think that in a lot of cases I'm much better. Like I type a whole bunch, but I am much better like when it comes to if I'm able to write my thoughts down and speak them, I do think that like speaking or hearing someone else speak about these topics and the importance of them would eventually end up helping a lot of people understand why like you said hearing me speak helped you understand like hearing me speak helped you understand the importance of the hairstyles, and I think maybe that's what people like needed to hear someone speak like from the bottom of their heart the importance of these hairstyles. So that's definitely something that I think is important, just hearing someone speak and like get their emotions out there.
I certainly think it is, because I think I'd always kind of understood the importance of them in terms of identity. But hearing the stories attached for you and people that you've known of what they go through in terms of their hair, I think that added just another dimension to the importance of it beyond it just being for the identity. And so I do think that it's a very powerful thing that you've had to say, and that it's definitely, I really hope people do listen to this podcast, because it's just something that I think a lot of people need to hear that maybe haven't.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, like I'm very happy that she gave me the opportunity to like speak on this and like get some of my thoughts out there. So yeah, people listen to this, it kind of helps them understand not just my perspective, but the perspective of a lot of Black people.
Yeah, me too, especially because it's not just a situation where people can like pick and choose, and that I know a lot of people kind of, I guess, take people's words out of context or one way or another. Because another thing I see a lot of people saying is, oh, I've got a Black friend and they say that they don't have a problem with me wearing, these hairstyles, and I guess that could be the case because not all stories of every person of color is going to be the same. I know personally I'm quite a sheltered person of color, to be honest. I'm very blessed in that right from day one on Animal Crossing I could make myself look exactly how I look like in the real world, but also the power and like the knowledge to acknowledge that not everyone is gonna have that privilege. Not everyone has the same story, and so to hear the things that you've said is even something that I couldn't imagine myself, even growing up in like one of the least diverse places. So I honestly am very, very grateful that you've been able to share that, because it's something that I think white people and also other people of color as well could learn from.
Yeah, and like I do want to kind of talk about something you said about how, I mean, even I saw this as a Black person. There were a lot of Black people who were saying stuff like, well, I'm Black and I'm not offended. And like, I think it's important to understand that, yes, we're not all going to have the same opinions. But one of my biggest things, at least looking at things through Blackness, is if I see that a Black person is offended by something I'm not offended by. Because there have been things that I wasn't necessarily offended by and I didn't think were offensive, but I saw that if another Black person was offended by it, then I might not necessarily like agree with them, but I'm not going to like use my Blackness to shoot them down. And I think that's the issue that I was seeing. A lot of these other Black people saying stuff like, well, I'm not offended. We're also allowing white people and non-Black people to listen to them and be harmful and be racist to other Black people. And that is the issue. I think that if you're not offended, then just kind of go about your day. If you are offended, then I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. If you're not offended, then just go about your day. But if you see someone who is offended, then it's not really your place to use your identity and your experiences to silence them. And on top of that, get non-Black people to attack them and everything. And that happened to me. Like, people were using their Blackness and their identity as Blackness as cannon fodder, and that did nothing but got racial slurs hurled my way. So I understand that people aren't going to be offended by everything, but like, you don't necessarily use your identity to allow people to hurt people who look like you. That was just something I always wanted to address, because every so often you're going to have people who aren't upset by something, and that's completely understandable. But it's how you choose to go about that, and that's what I don't think a lot of people understood.
Yeah. See, I think what you're saying there is right, because a lot of people may have grown up in more diverse areas, so they're more understood. They can be around people that have had similar issues, or because it's such a diverse place, then there isn't any of those issues because it's not seen as something so different. So if you grow up in perhaps a place where it's more of a minority, like you said about some of the issues that people have faced with the hair, and that it's touched quite a lot, or that sort of thing, because it's different, it attracts more attention and people have had more problems. So for people that have had such a diverse upbringing, then maybe to them it's not been an issue, but to people that have been growing up in these minority places, they have faced so many things that it's not even comparable to speak for them and say, oh yeah, it's not really an issue, when to some people it really is.
Yeah, like I say, not everyone has the same experiences, like growing up where I have, like literally, like 18, 19 years of age when I first heard the phrase person of colour, like I'd always identified myself as, quote, a coloured person. I've always been called a coloured person. And so I've literally never, like, someone could go up to me and describe me as a coloured person tomorrow, next week, and I would never think to blink twice about it. But I also know so many people that that's just a no-go area. And once you understand that your story isn't the full story all the time, especially when it's just a change of mindset or a change of language to avoid really upsetting someone, it's one of those things where going out your way to not say something offensive or going out of your way to be more inclusive, it takes so little effort that it's baffling how some people still don't understand that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've been...
Because
Sorry.
It's okay. I didn't mean to cut you off or anything. But, I just want to kind of reiterate, like I said, some things just aren't offensive to me, but I'm never going to speak over someone who finds it offensive, because we all live different walks of life and have different experiences. So it's definitely something that I understand people are going to have different perspectives on things. So, yeah.
I was going to say that I think to some extent ignorance is kind of not even an excuse in some cases, because I grew up in a similar area to JB in that I can honestly say I didn't meet anybody that was black until I was about 19. I think I'd only met about 10 people of colour until I turned about 20. And yet, I think there's just a level of, respect for just people that you always should try and just be accepting and, make people happy. I remember coming to university, and the area that I went to university in was so much more diverse, and I'd say the majority of my friends were people of colour, and some of them turned around to me and said, given where you grew up, I didn't expect that you'd want to be my friend. And it's like, well, I understand how that's a concept. I don't understand how people are any different. And I just think that sometimes for people, I think, JB's been quite polite and said that he understands that some people do make these mistakes and it can just be ignorance. I think that, given how I react in certain situations, I think that, there's a lot of allowance made for people being ignorant, when in reality, I think it's people can just be quite rude about situations. I think as long as you're a nice person and there's, this kind of niceness in your heart, and you just want everybody to kind of be happy, and you want to show respect to everybody regardless of who they are, how they look, any of those kind of other factors, then nobody would really get upset. I think, it can be a level of rudeness, really.
Yeah.
Especially
Definitely.
nowadays, really, because all you need to do is watch a film or watch a TV show, and I guess it's not the same, but you do get that diversity, like, people are old enough to understand that, like, if there's a racist character in a TV show, they're clearly not a nice person, and I think films and TV have become a lot more diverse lately. Like, there's obviously still strides to be made, but I don't know. Like, even thinking back to like the most mainstream films, like a Marvel movie, even if you're from one of these places with absolutely no minority groups, if you watch a movie like that, you're still gonna see people of that nature, people of color, and realize that they're not something to be like afraid of. So, yeah, I guess
Yeah.
that is a really good
Do you
point.
know what? JB's just said something and it reminded me of a point that he has made in the past that I think is just kind of worth mentioning. And that is, what JB and I have obviously talked about children in our future and things. And he said one thing that is a consideration for him personally is at school here in the UK, every year we do a thing called World Book Day, where you dress up as your favourite
Oh,
character from a book or TV show. And he said he wouldn't know what to send his children as because there's literally two characters that are quite prominent that's a person of colour if you're a girl. And that is, like Princess Jasmine from Aladdin or the princess from Princess and the Frog. Other than that, he didn't feel there was any representation for black people, people of colour, that, children would be able to kind of latch onto in those situations. And I do think there is a kind of level of diverseness, even in movies and children's movies and things, that's required to kind of take steps further. Because, like I said, he's mentioned, in the past how he'd personally feel like his children have been excluded because there's just not the same options for them in terms of, characters that they could kind of transform into.
yeah. And like that's also a sad thing because yeah, you have like these characters that as black people and people of color we're so limited on who we can like actually be. But then you'll have instances where maybe black people or people of color do try to like be different characters or do try to like be characters that don't necessarily look like them because like I mean, I highlighted that or I briefly mentioned that like I was into anime and this year one of my goals is to start actually cosplaying and stuff like that. But like the first few characters I want to cosplay aren't like black and they're nowhere near my skin tone. And the thing is like there's not that much inclusivity for us. But when we do cosplay as characters that don't look like us, or when we do dress up as characters that don't look at us, the first thing we're met with is nothing but hate and everything. And like that's hard because then you'll have people say, well, make your own stuff. And then when we do make our own stuff, people get mad and say that you're just being selfish or you just want things to be politically correct or force diversity. So it's basically like as black people and people of color, when it comes to representation, we're all stuck in like a catch-22 situation because even if we dress up or find representation in what there is, then we get hate. But if we make our own spaces, we get hate. So like there's no winning in most cases.
No, completely, because like literally before everything, all you could do was either, I guess, make yourself a character that's traditionally white, or kind of just, I guess, make your own spin on things, and that's always going to be met with criticism, and it's sad to see because it's not like we're actively going out of our way to make a lack of representation. It's just in an ideal world we would have these extravagant characters to be, we'd have these type of people that we could look up to as well, but I don't know, it's just not always the reality. But I guess on the more positive side of things, is there a moment, in your childhood or recently where you saw a film or you were inspired by a character or even like a real life actor or actress that you just thought of, this is really nice to see. For example, I remember one of the first films that made me feel like there was some quite nice inclusivity was when I saw Frozone in The Incredibles. I just thought that he was like the coolest character ever because there's like someone that isn't, the typical white character that I was used to seeing on TV for so many years.
Ooh, yeah. So if I can think, I can probably think of three characters. So, versus Katara from Avatar. Katara is not black, obviously, but like growing up, she was some of the like one of the only dark skinned women that a lot of people got. Like she was one of the only dark skinned characters that a lot of black people got. And like back then you didn't really see a lot of like dark-skinned female characters being in control of their own narratives and stuff like that. Like you didn't see a lot of dark-skinned women characters being their own protagonists, having realistic narratives and everything, where they didn't have to bow down to anyone or anything like that. They were basically just amazing on their own. And so like seeing Katara and seeing that she had like seeing that how important she was in Avatar and that the franchise couldn't exist without her, that was really big for me. Like I'm not, because I know they're Inuit coded, but as someone who was like dark skinned, that's who I looked up to, Katara, and like, yeah, she's not as dark as I am, but that was still me seeing someone who was like dark skinned in a franchise. And like the other two people are probably Tarani from Witch and Cleo from Tuttenstein. Both of them are black, and on one hand you had Cleo, who was super super smart. She was like a history nerd, loved mummies and everything, and she actually had a mummy friend, and like she was really smart and everything. And then you had Tarani, who was like a magical girl, and you don't really get a lot of black magical girls, so that was really really cool. And then the first one that I think I ever felt represented by was from one of my favorite animes, and it's still one of my favorite animes, and that's probably a Tim. Not probably, that is a Tim from Yu-Gi-Oh! And when we got to see how he really looked in the last season, when we got to see he was a pharaoh, and there are like many people dispute like he's not black, he's Arab or whatever, and like sure he can be Arab, like I don't mind him being Arab, but he can also you can read him as being Arab, but also let like black people read him as black, because as a little black anime fan back then, like he was my black representation. And I know that people read him as other things, and that's fine, but like that's how I read him. So yeah, those were like, as someone who liked cartoons and animes and stuff like that, those are some of the first people I saw myself represented and who inspired me.
That is really good, because for all there's a lot of negativity in terms of things like this, I think it's also really positive to highlight the kind of good moments in that as well, because I think the one thing that is consistent with a lot of people of color is that everyone's kind of got their character, like the first time they saw someone that looked like them on TV, and I think that's just a really important moment to highlight. Now I guess moving on again to the Afro Crossing page, the most recent event that you've announced, I believe, is the Afro Crossing shoutouts, which are set to take place on the 14th of February, which is of course Valentine's Day. Now I know you've discussed the possibility of starting an Afro Crossing YouTube channel and a magazine, but in terms of the Afro Crossing Twitter account, do you have any plans for events beyond Valentine's Day at all?
Yeah, so in March, either in March or April, I kind of want to do like, this is going to sound silly, but I kind of want to like do a little fashion show. So like my whole plan is for there to be like fashion candidates, and like everyone print screens like their best outfit and everything, and the community basically judges what the best outfit and everything was. And the thing is, there's going to be different categories, and it's going to go on for like about a week. And then at the end of the week, we announce all the winners and everything. And if people pitch in to help, there can actually be like bells for people who win. So that's basically, after this, it's probably going to take place in April. Well, what comes after April? May comes after April. Either April or May. So it can be like a late spring, early summer thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking about beyond this.
See, that sounds really cool, and we really can't wait to keep up with everything that goes on the Afro Crossing page, because again, it really did inspire us to just think about how, you know, safe the community is becoming, and how there is literally a safe place for black players to thrive and to show their creativity without feeling bogged down and lost in, I guess, a sea of negativity. So it is really great to see. Now, I guess before we begin to wrap things up, is there anything else that you'd kind of want to discuss or that you want to bring to the attention of people listening right now?
As I'm thinking, not much. I guess the lasting note is that if there's any Black Animal Crossing fans who are listening to this and you feel alone in the community, you can always check out Afro Crossing, and I'm gonna continue to do my best to make sure that Black players don't feel alone. And I hope to expand Afro Crossing in the future.
That is amazing. So I guess to reiterate to those players, where can they find you on the internet?
As of now, you can find me on Twitter at AfroCrossing. So spelled capital A FRO capital CROSSING, and that's where I am.
Thank you so much. And of course, a link to the Twitter account will be in the description down below. So if anyone is listening to this and they want to get involved with Afro Crossing, they want to follow the amazing progression of it, that will be in the description. So please make sure to follow that link and give the Afro Crossing profile a follow, because they honestly deserve so much support, and we can't wait to show our support even further. And honestly, thank you so much once again for coming on to the podcast, because it really does mean a lot to us that you decided to take some time out of your day to share your experiences with us.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for inviting me and even reaching out to me again when I didn't respond. I apologize for that, but it means a lot that you followed up with me.
No, thank you so much. It's honestly been such a privilege to speak to you, and I hope that people listening to this have felt inspired by your words and they just have a greater understanding of things, because I know that we've definitely, you know, taken away a lot from this personally. Some things that we haven't considered, and it honestly has just been a very, I guess, one of our more serious episodes of the show, but one that I feel we're so much better walking, like, you know, away from the fact that we've just, I don't know, I feel that we've gained so much enrichment, so we really can't thank you enough for that. So yeah, this has been another episode of the 5-Star Talk podcast. Please make sure to like, comment and subscribe.
JB
And again, thank you for having me, both of you.
Thank you so much.